Welcome to this tutorial series. In this series we're going to be creating a content management system in Angular and NodeJS. So in my code editor here I've created a little to-do list on the right hand side just so you can follow along as to what we're doing. So we're going to start off by generating the application, installing the npm modules that we require, setting up the modules, the Angular modules, and then configuring the routes. So let's start off with generating the application. So assuming that you've got Angular installed, if you haven't, you can run npm install -g, which is global, at Angular/CLI. This will install Angular globally on your machine, and then you'll have full access to the Angular CLI. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be ng-n, which is ng-new, and we're going to call our application CMS. Hit enter, and then it will ask us a couple of questions. So do we want to set up routing for this application? We will do. We're going to be using SCSS. You can use CSS or SAS, but if you want to follow along with this, we're going to be using SCSS. And then it's just going to install the Angular applications in the background. Okay, so after a little bit of time, you should see that that's now installed everything. If we open up the CMS file on the left hand side, we can see all of our files in here. So next thing we want to do is install Semantic UI and Material UI. The reason we're using Semantic UI is just purely for the grid system. Materials grid system personally isn't that great. So to install Material we can do ng add at Angular/material. It would help if we cd'd into this actual application. So once we're in here, we should then be able to run the ng add command, and this should install all of the material items that we need. So yes, I'll agree to the privacy policy. We want to install material, yes, and then it's going to ask us a few other questions once this is installing as to sort of the color scheme that we want to use. So now that's installed, it's going to allow us to select the color scheme. We're going to go with the default indigo pink. We also want to set up the typography. We want to enable animations just in case we want to use them. And that's fully installed. So now we want to install Semantic UI. So to do that we run npm install Semantic -UI-CSS because we only want to install the Semantic, the CSS version of Semantic. So once that's installed, we'll actually need to jump into the Angular JSON file, and we'll need to add it under the styles section here. So to do that, we can do node_modules/semantic-UI-CSS, and it should be all the way down the bottom. Semantic.min.css, and we'll also copy that down to the bottom here, line 99, because this will be for the test environment. So we can re-minimize those down now. Okay, brilliant. So we've now created the application, we've installed the required npm modules, which is Semantic and Material UI. Now we need to set up the Angular CLI modules. To do this, we're going to run ng-g, which is generate, and then m for modules, and we want to create a public module. And what we can do here is we can actually set up the routing as well. So route, we want that to be public, and that's going to go inside the module for app.module. I'll show you what that's doing in a second. And that should now return that it's created all of these files for us. If we go under the src folder and under application, we can see we have public, and that has all of our public routing, components, CSS, and testing scripts. So underneath the app.routing file here, you can see it's created a new route, public. So if we were to run npm start and we went to localhost 4200 and then /public, it would actually show the public page. We're going to need to configure the login, register, forgot, dashboard, and so on. Once we've created those, so now that we've created the public file, we're now going to create the private, and then we can start creating the child pages under these. Cool, so that's now got public and private here. We can see inside here we have a public and a private, and it's referencing the private modules and public modules. Cool, so now we want to add the child pages, and to do this we can do ng generate module public /login. Root is going to be login, and the module we actually want to install that under is public module, and that will have to be public /public. And then we're going to repeat this for the sign up and the forgot password. Just going to check these off now that we've done them. So now we can start creating the private modules. So to do that, what we'll do is scroll back up to the private, and we'll do private /dashboard, if I can spell it right. And the root will be dashboard, and that will be under private /private. Okay, cool. And then we're going to have to repeat that for the pages, posts, comments, media, settings, tools, and users. Okay, great. Now we've created all of those. That will give us a good base to start on. We will need to create some later. possibly just in case we want a single user page, for example, or a single comment page, or a single post page, or a single page. But we can create those when it comes around to it. So now what we want to do is we actually want to jump into the public routing component here, the public routing module.ts. And we want to, rather than loading these in on the top level here, what we're going to do is we're going to say, go into the main one here. I'm going to say children, open up an array, and we're actually going to paste these values, cut and paste these values inside of here. So what that will do, that will actually use the public components container and then build these pages inside of that container, so we can use a general outline for those pages. Another thing we'll need to do is tell the application what path it's going to go to. So here, for example, we're going to say if it's an empty path, we want it to redirect to the login page, and that path match is going to be full. So if it is just empty on /public. So obviously we don't want people coming to the website and typing /public, so we can go into the routing component and we can just remove this here. And then when someone actually comes in, it should go directly through to the public component. It will follow this path into the public routing component and then go into the login page. So now let's do the same for the private section. So we jump into the routing page here. We want to add children again. Empty array. We want the redirect to the dashboard, and then what we're going to do is we're going to copy this content back across up here. Brilliant. So that's all the routing set up, all the modules installed. What we can do, just very quickly whilst we're here, underneath the app component.html, we can clear out the default content there and we can put in a router outlet. This will ensure the content loaded from the routers loads inside of this. Let's do the same for the public component. We'll pop that under here so we can say router outlet, just so we can see that we're working with the public component here. And then the same for the private. Now if we run ngserve, this will take a bit of a time for the first time, but it'll be very quick afterwards. Oh, I've got an error here, it's node modules, not node module. If you managed to catch that, well done. Let's just jump into the angular.json file and we'll update that's with an S, and this one here with an S. We'll save that, and that should. We need to restart the compiler because it doesn't actually watch anything outside of the SR folder. Okay, so that's actually generated our application now. So let's open this up, and as you can see, if I zoom in a bit, we've loaded up the public component and the login component because we've gone /login. If I empty that, it goes automatically redirects to /login. So if we go to now /private, we can see private dashboard, and we can change this to users, and we can see we've got users as well. So that's everything we're going to run through in this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're actually going to run through creating the admin section under the private, which we're going to go through and build out the dashboards, the pages, the posts, the comments, the media, the settings, tools and users section. If you found this useful, hit the subscribe button, and the next video will be coming out shortly.